Hello again, I am Blunty and welcome to this fourth Picture Perfect episode of my exploration of the PlayStation Vita. This time around, as you may have guessed by now, we're going to take a look at the cameras. There we go. So let's boot up the camera app here. When you boot up you get your page, of course. You can either go straight to the camera or you can load up your albums. I'll go to the albums in a second. Let's have a look at the camera basics. So there we go. Now the cameras on the back and the front of this are, for all intents and purposes, identical. They very well may be exactly the same chip for all I can tell. They will do a maximum of 640 by 480, which is kind of pathetic. In 640 mode they will do up to 60 frames a second, and they can also run in video mode of 320 by 240, I think, which will give you up to 120 frames per second. That you can't use for taking pictures. That's for augmented reality and in-game play and all that sort of stuff. But we're going to be looking at the photographic elements today. So as you can see there, nice quick update on the screen. There's no significant blurring or smearing. So let's take a look. You can hit that button there to switch between front and rear cameras, yada, as you'd expect. And this button here, you can change the aspect ratio of the shot you're taking. But that is really next to useless because it doesn't actually do anything but crop out the picture, which you can do after the fact anyway. So you're better off taking it in your maximum resolution, which is this 640 by 480 mode, and then cropping later if you want to adjust. Because as soon as you press that, see how it crops in? It's just basically zooming in on the sensor chip. Same thing when you do that. You're better off just turning the whole thing sideways if you want a portrait shot like that. So, stay in your main mode and trim later. There is no ability to take videos on the Vita at the moment. By the way, I don't know why. It's certainly more than powerful enough. I mean, if the 3DS can do it, this bloody thing can do it. But, hit the button, take a picture. It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. Hit the shoulder button, take a picture. So you can wander around going click, 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 and pretend you're holding a real camera. So, hit the button up there and you're taken directly to your albums. Now, they've sorted out fairly intelligently. You can have a look at everything. You can have a look at by month. You can have a look at everything taken with the camera, or you can have a look at everything taken with the screenshot function. And once you're in here, you can do as you'd expect. Pull them up, and you scroll through one by one, and you can double tap to zoom in and move around, and pinch to zoom, and all that kind of stuff. You can also, of course, play a little slideshow there, which is incredibly tedious and boring and fades between one and the other. Who cares about that stuff? But if you bring up the option menu here, you can trim and save. You can send it by group messaging. You can set it as your start screen, or you can go to the settings, which is just basically the slideshow style and speed, which is boring. But let's take a look at that trim and save. Well, as you can see, you can't really trim much. What you can do is just scroll the picture up and down within a 16:9 frame. This is basically designed for you to basically take your own wallpapers and have them in the correct aspect ratio. So, so punch that, it saves, and what it does is basically just save it as a brand new image. So there's our original. Let me go back, and there's the one we just trimmed. Anyway, so those are your basic functions. Nothing surprising at all. Nothing that will shock you in any way whatsoever. It operates exactly how you expect it to. Very, very basic feature set, and very, very basic camera hardware itself, really. So I went out on a photo walk with it the other day and treated it like I was shooting with a real camera, for want of a better phrase. So let's take a look at the results I got when I was trying to treat it as a tool for photography, and we'll see how we did. Okay, so everything I'm showing you here is unedited and untouched. These are the raw JPEGs right off the Vita, and it's pretty immediately clear that we're not dealing with camera hardware that was selected to make photographers happy. It's a fixed focus lens with slightly fuzzy and vast depth of field. It brings to mind camera phone technology from 5 years ago. The colours are washed out and the white balance is consistently incorrect regardless of shooting conditions, meaning that whatever you're shooting is going to look rather drained and flat. Fine detail is almost always obliterated by the plastic lens and low resolution of the sensor, and there's lots of purple fringing in high contrast areas like on the edges of this tree. The dynamic range is pretty crippled too. The whites blow out really easily and the shadows quickly become muddy and smeared. And while it's deeply unfair to directly compare this 0.3 megapixel camera to the stunningly good 8 megapixel shooter in the iPhone 4S, which uses a Sony designed image sensor by the way, it is a comparison that is extremely revealing of the shortcomings of the Vita's camera. A fairer test, perhaps, is comparing the Vita to the 3DS. Surprisingly, the 3DS outperforms the Vita rather handily. The image has more noise, but the colours are richer, the contrast is higher, and it's got better detail and dynamic range across the board. So there you go. As you can see, the cameras on the device aren't really custom designed to be a photography tool at all. They can do the job, and they can do the job okay-ish, but don't expect much. They are low resolution, they are not very good with colours and fringing and sharpness, and you can't autofocus, and there's infinite depth of field, so you can't sort of get tricky out of focus shots like this one here. See, everything out there is out of focus, and all your attention is drawn here because this is in focus, that kind of stuff. Can't do it with this, but or if you're feeling a bit of adventurous, or you want to deliberately limit yourself by using low-end hardware to see how creative you can get and sort of how far you can force the camera to get a decent shot for you, which I do like doing from time to time, quite frankly, then it provides an interesting extra function. But seriously, the cameras on it basically are only there for gameplay experiences, for augmented reality, for even video chat when that comes along later down the line. And I have used these in an augmented reality situation when I was testing out a pre-production unit a few months back, and it works really, really well. The combination of the cameras and the motion sensors on there work really well as a team, and it comes out very, very smooth and very, very effective augmented reality. So they do that job especially well. But if you're a photographer, you won't be wanting to rely on this as your camera in your bag, basically. So thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will leave you with a few hand-picked shots that I have edited in Aperture to see how much I can squeeze out of this particular camera. Everything you've seen till this point is raw, straight off the memory card. But now let's take a look at what happens when you actually pay attention and edit them and push them, pull them around, trying to get them to look decent enough to share and not being embarrassed by how washed out they look. Catch you next time.